From the Steampunk Explorer newsroom, a world of hair-raising adventures, splendiferous personalities, fantabulous creations. Welcome to the World of Steampunk.
Welcome to episode 11 of the World of Steampunk. I'm Stephen Beal, editor and publisher of the Steampunk Explorer, and I'll be your host. In this episode, we'll speak with Ofeibea Loveless from Airship Ashanti. That's a steampunk cosplay group from Cincinnati, and this year they're celebrating their 10th anniversary. We discuss their origin story, their philanthropic activities, and lots more. We also have scenes from the Key City Steampunk Convention in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. That event featured the first ever U.S. appearance by Madame Misfit, the chap-hop electro-swing performer from the UK. But the convention had lots more as well. This will be a preview of a longer report we're planning for a future episode. But first, in episode 1 of this video series, we took viewers to the Obtainium Cup Contraptors Rally in Vallejo, California. It's an event where art cars navigate a wacky obstacle course. It made a comeback this year after going on hiatus in 2023, and we were there. The rally is produced by Obtainium Works, the art car studio best known for the Never Was Hall, a 3-story Victorian house on wheels. The rally is not a road race. Instead, the riders are judged on how well they handle a series of challenges. The flying monkeys, which are actually stuffed animals fired from air cannons. The robot rumble, where contestants step out of their vehicles and operate a pair of trash can robots. The most treacherous challenge is the zombies. The object is to persuade them not to eat your brain. You can try bribing the zombies, or you can simply convince them that you don't have a brain worth eating. And then this.
Welcome to Wonderland. So as our vehicles come along, we're going to have one station that's a T-duel. So you choose your weapon and duel to see who can keep their biscuit in the tea the longest without it crumbling to mush. And then our other vehicles are going to come through, and I or one of my other friends will ask them a riddle.
This year, the organizers introduced new challenges. A group called Beaver Fever brought dams to randomly block the vehicles and slow things down. Also, a local belly dancing group challenged the contestants to show their dance moves. Now it was time for the drivers to start their engines. Let the silliness begin. When it was all over, the judges handed in their tallies and Obtainium Works presented the trophies. This year's grand prize winner was Needs More Cowbell Kinetics for their entry Humboldt Pie Factory. Their name was inscribed on the fabled Obtainium Cup. And now it's time for the contestants to prepare for what we hope will be another Obtainium Cup rally in 2025. We are here with Ofeibea Loveless. She's the mechanic and PR marketing chair for Airship Ashanti, a steampunk group in the Cincinnati area. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Now, why don't you tell us, what is Airship Ashanti?
So, Airship Ashanti is a multicultural steampunk group based in Cincinnati, Ohio. And we are pretty active in the local steampunk community. We will be celebrating our 10th anniversary in a few weeks.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about the origin story? What is the origin story of Airship Ashanti?
Okay, so I met our captain in spring 2014 at the local Steampunk Convention, which was the International Steampunk Symposium. And then a few months later, I saw her again, and she was telling me about putting together this multicultural steampunk group and just trying to get some people interested in it. So our history is based on the Ashanti Empire, which is present day Ghana, and the story of Asante Wa, who was head of the Ashanti Empire. She was very fearless leader who was clashing with the British in the 1800s, trying to keep them from usurping the Ashanti land.
I mean, so this is like a backstory.
This is our backstory.
Okay.
So when I heard about this backstory about Airship Ashanti from Captain Mendisa, I wanted to. It would kind of dovetail with my character and how I was coming at steampunk. It was just kind of this. It was kismet, I think, for us to meet and to become a part of this ship together.
Okay, and your character is Ofeibea, and what kind of what are your as a mechanic? What is your responsibility as a mechanic, or is it more like PR and marketing?
So I would say that my primary job is PR and marketing. I know how to fix a few things. I would say I'm good at that. It's
okay, good. Like a little cosplay repair, maybe.
Cosplay repair. I know a little bit about airships, a little bit about cars. I can fake it until I make it.
Got it. One thing that's interesting to me is that the whole concept of steampunk groups being called airships, that seems like a Midwest thing to me for some reason. Maybe a Midwest South thing, because on the West Coast, they don't call themselves airships. They call themselves things like society.
Oh.
The Sacramento Steampunk Society or whatever. So, yeah, but I guess it just seemed natural if you're going to have a steampunk group, you call it an airship.
Well, I think it's just a way of a naming convention. It's a way of arranging your people who belong to your particular group. Before I was a part of Airship Ashanti, I was a part of another group that was really it was a city. It was the whole kind of, the naming convention of it kind of came from it being its own kind of landlocked city. And so everyone who participated in that group had a place within the city. So yeah, your point about societies, that's interesting. That's not something that we typically do around here.
Okay. So why don't you tell us about what kind of stuff do you do? What sort of activities do you engage in? I understand that some of it's involving philanthropy, correct?
Yes. So we are very big on philanthropy. We do at least 4 events a year where we are giving back to our local community in some kind of way. So we're doing 5Ks, we're doing clothing drives, we've done a blood drive. For a few years, we've been doing an event that we call Fleet of Fleece, which is making no-sew blankets for originally children's hospitals and then animal shelters. So every quarter we're trying to figure out something different to do.
Got it. And obviously you do a lot at steampunk conventions, correct? You went to the one in Cincinnati, even to some others as well.
Yes, we have. We went to the International Steampunk Symposium for, oh gosh, it was probably 7 or 8 years straight. I mean, it was until the pandemic happened, and then everything kind of slowed down. But yeah, we made our debut there. We've gone to the Chicago Steampunk Expo. We've gone to the Atlanta Steampunk Expo. We try to get out and just, go to different events and meet other people who are interested in steampunk, as well as bring steampunk to events that don't necessarily have a steampunk presence. So
okay, so spreading the word of steampunk.
Yeah, going to Time Travelers Weekend at the Ohio Renaissance Festival is always a fun one, where you run into some steampunk people. You get all kinds of different people doing various time travel costumes, but it's in this Renaissance fair kind of environment.
Right. Now, did you ever run into the thing where, because this has been my experience, you go to events and they're not steampunk events, but you're dressed up, people go, like, what is that? Who are you? What, do you ever get that kind of reaction?
I feel like we've gotten to a point where, around here at least, there are enough people that know if they're at a convention, they kind of have an idea of like what steampunk is. Where we get the most what's going on kind of that reaction from people is when we've gone down the street to have lunch and we're still in our costumes and they aren't familiar with steampunk, and it's explaining, here's what this thing is, here's why it's interesting, and you get to dress like this.
Right. Well, I've done it with groups in San Francisco, and sometimes people will look at us and they'll go, well, that's just a San Francisco thing.
Yeah, it's
I don't know
its way across the country and the world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now you have your 10th anniversary coming up. I understand you've got some plans for that. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yes, we are planning to do a little celebration by going back to Dragon Con for the first time in probably 7 years. We are also planning to do a philanthropy event where we're participating in the Out of the Darkness Walk, which is done by the American Society for Suicide Prevention. So we have a couple of things coming up. We will be at the Ohio Renaissance Festival in early September for Fantasy Weekend, kind of representing the Fae of the Shade, which is part of Black Fae Day. I don't know if you've heard of Black Fae Day, but that's an event that happens like once the second Saturday of May. It's just an idea of trying to get more people interested in fantasy. And I definitely think that, being a part of steampunk is not high fantasy, but it's definitely getting whimsical.
Right. Well, that's the thing about steampunk. It crosses it. It can be science fiction. It can be fantasy. It can be horror. Yeah. So now, what are you going to be doing at Dragon Con?
So we have a bunch of costumes that we have planned. Over the last 4 years, we really have gotten into the idea of trying to reuse some of the costumes that we've made since we started in 2014. When you get into costuming, we have five core members, and each person gets to pick a costume every year. So we've been going really hard on costumes up until 2020. So for 6 years, we were going like really hard on costumes, and then you just don't wear them again. So we're trying to break out some of these costumes and wear those again, and just get out there and have fun.
Okay, so you'll be showing off sort of the best of Airship Ashanti in terms of cosplay.
Yes.
At Dragon Con. Okay. Are you going to be a part of the, I guess they have what they call a time travelers track which is where they do kind of do a lot of their steampunk programming?
We'll be attending, but as of right now, we are not on the schedule.
Okay, okay. So now another thing I wanted to talk to you about, or was hoping to talk to you about, was so you've described yourself as a multicultural group, group, promoting multiculturalism in steampunk. Now, obviously, and this goes back, quite a few years. There, this talk about, because so much of steampunk is based on the Victorian era, and obviously the Victorian era was a time, kind of had cool visuals and aesthetics and corsets and stuff, but also a lot of really ugly stuff.
Yeah.
In terms of the way people of color were treated and the way women were treated, and with a very backward time in many ways, and then the colonialism, the imperialism in other parts of the world. Can you address that to any extent? Is that part of your? Are you addressing that in some way in the way you approach steampunk?
I feel like visually we are. We have three of our core members are Black, 2 of them are white, and we are trying to get at the idea with the backstory for the ship, but also our individual backstories. We're trying to get outside of the idea of Victorian England and American Wild West being the only ways to engage with steampunk. So I like to tell people that, the Victorian period was just a period of time. It happened everywhere. We just happened to name it after the person who was part of the most conquering empire in that time period. It was happening. There were inventions being created. There were all kinds of things being done in all of these other places. So how would steampunk look in those other places?
Right, okay. And obviously, there has been literature kind of doing the same thing with Missy Shaw and Everfair, and P. Shelley Clark's new Master of Jin, which won the Nebula Award for best novel. Right. So it looks like maybe some parallel thinking there.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting time to be a part of steampunk, because there are a lot more people who are recognizing kind of the whimsical aspect, the whimsical nature of the genre, but also trying to address those, like, the hard questions that arise when you make this hobby, when you set this genre in a time period that was really not good for a significant number of people, a bunch of different populations. Like, it wasn't a good time. So how do you address that and still hang on to the idea that this can be fun and playful?
Excellent. So what are your plans for the future?
Oh gosh, I think we're just gonna keep doing what we've been doing. We love to costume. We love to talk to people about steampunk. We're always trying to get more people involved, get them interested in the genre, and hopefully we'll be around another 10 years from now.
I hope so. Okay, well, that's pretty much all the questions I have. So thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ofeibea, and thanks to all our viewers for watching. We'll see you next time.